a man notices something strange while feeding his dog. The dog, usually a total glutton, completely ignores him. Instead, it's frantically digging at something nearby. The man's curiosity gets the better of him. But when he walks over, what he sees stops him dead in his tracks. There's a human hand sticking out of the dirt. Before he can even process what's happening, he hears the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked behind him. He swallows hard, tries to play it cool, and casually buries the hand back in the soil. The one holding the gun? Turns out it's his colleague, Nick. Danny manages to fool him for now, but he knows he needs to find a way out, and fast. Just then, a vehicle pulls up. See, the two of them work at a police signal station on a remote mountaintop. The terrain is treacherous, there's no cell service, and all their supplies have to be driven up by a delivery driver. This gives Danny a window. He tells Nick he's got a stomachache and needs the bathroom. But once inside, he peers through the window and realizes there's nothing out there but sheer cliffs. There's nowhere to run. Then he hears footsteps outside the door. A shadow appears in the doorway. Danny's heart is pounding as he slowly lowers himself onto the toilet seat. Nick says the bathroom's out of water and he's brought some over. But even after closing the door, he doesn't leave. He just stands there, watching. Nick is clearly on guard. So Danny plays it casual and starts humming a tune. That's enough to get Nick to ease up and walk away. But escaping through the bathroom is a dead end. Danny needs another plan. He eyes the delivery driver, wheels turning in his head. But Nick, ever vigilant, shuts down every possibility. He doesn't give the two of them a single moment to talk. As the driver pulls away, Danny's chance at calling for help goes with him. Trapped in this cramped signal station with Nick and his gun, Danny is essentially in a cage. So how is he going to get himself out of this? And what's the real story behind that buried hand? To understand that, we need to go back to where it all began, this remote workplace. The police signal station sits on top of an isolated mountain, and every shift change is a whole ordeal just getting there. On top of that, the station is smack in the middle of a lightning zone, making the surrounding area extremely dangerous. People get struck all the time, so the officers have to be extra careful on the job. This particular rotation, it's Nick and Danny's turn. When Nick sees Danny arrive, he immediately grabs food from the fridge and starts cooking. But watching Danny tear into the meat, Nick suddenly feels a wave of nausea. Danny's a bit puzzled, but Nick quickly explains it's because he just remembered the charred body from yesterday's lightning strike. After the meal, the two head outside to fix the antenna. That's pretty much the job up here, simple and mind-numbingly boring. But after they finish the repair, Nick stares at the signal tower for a long time, like something's weighing on his mind. That's when he catches Danny sneaking a peek through binoculars. He follows Danny's line of sight and spots a couple who've wandered up here for a little rendezvous. Without a word, Nick goes to shoo them away. After all, there was just a lightning strike here. The couple leaves after Nick's warning, but Danny doesn't look too happy about it. At this point, Danny has no idea what that's really about, but he'll figure it out soon enough. As they're heading back, they suddenly notice a car driving up the mountain. Turns out it's the chief, coming up for an inspection with his team. The two rush inside to tidy up, changing clothes, shaving, the whole 9 yards. But the moment the chief arrives, Nick steps out to greet him. The chief, though, is clearly in a foul mood. He tears into the driver just for not parking the car straight. Danny's thrilled to see a female colleague and eagerly takes the group on a little sightseeing tour. Nick, meanwhile, gets everyone some drinks. That's when he learns from the driver what's really going on. The chief's wife ran off with a driver. So now every time the chief sees a driver, he can't help but lash out. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happening. The chief is busy arguing with his wife on the phone. Just then, a call comes through on the radio, there's an emergency down the mountain. The group rushes to their cars and heads down. Someone reported finding a human hand. After a preliminary examination, the forensic team determines the following. The hand belongs to a female, approximately 30 years old. Judging by the cut, it was severed with a sharp weapon, and it's been at least 2 days. Most importantly, all the fingerprints have been wiped clean. This suggests the case is likely a serious one. Police deploy search dogs immediately, and sure enough, they quickly find more body parts. This confirms the victim is dead. When Danny hears the news, he suddenly loses his appetite. He takes his leftovers outside to feed the dog, and that brings us right back to the opening scene. A hand, found right here near the signal station. And even more shocking, Nick's reaction. Could he actually be the killer? After Danny misses his chance to get help from the driver, escaping becomes even harder. There's no cell signal up here. Nick invites Danny to play cards. But Danny's mind is racing, trying to figure a way out. Cards? Who can think about cards right now? So he forces himself to stay calm while quietly looking for an opening.
ഒരു കൊലപാതക വാർത്ത കേട്ടല്ലേ നിനക്ക് എന്തറിയാൻ താല്പര്യം
എനിക്ക് പ്രതികാരമെന്നറിയാം
പക്ഷെ എനിക്കതല്ല കൊല്ലാനൊരു കാറുണ്ടാവും അതറിയാനാ.
From their conversation, you can tell Danny is dropping hints, subtly trying to get Nick to turn himself in. but Nick brushes it off and steers the talk toward criminal motives instead. Does that mean there's more to the story than meets the eye? Danny secretly slips his phone into his pocket, planning to make a call for help when he goes outside to start the generator. But sharp-eyed Nick notices the phone is missing and follows him out immediately. He asks to borrow Danny's phone, claiming his own is dead. Danny's frustrated, but there's nothing he can do. Nick then removes the back panel, pops out the SIM card, and sits on a rock, grinding it down. By the time Danny finishes starting the generator, the SIM card is already destroyed. Nick hands the phone back. When Danny checks it, of course, still no signal. Meanwhile, police find even more body parts scattered within a few kilometers. But without the head, they can't confirm the victim's identity. Danny's brain is still working overtime, searching for any possible way out. Soon, he gets another chance. When Nick walks off, Danny rushes to the radio.
Control Punjra. Control Punjra. ഈ കൊല്ലപ്പെട്ട സ്ത്രീയുടെ കൈപ്പത്തി ഇവിടെ കൈക്കൊണ്ടു സാർ.
By now, Nick has confirmed that Danny saw the hand. Danny also realizes the other walkie-talkie has been taken. After a moment's thought, he decides to cut the power. The command center only catches half the transmission before the signal drops out. They dispatch the chief to go check on things. Nick hurries back inside, only to find Danny gone. He spins around, searching, and spots him standing at the edge of the mountain, perfectly still. When Nick walks over, he realizes what's going on. Danny's waiting for the chief to arrive from below. Nick follows Danny back inside. He knows what Danny's been up to, but the chief will be here any minute. It's not the best time to make a move. Before long, the group arrives at the station. But when the chief steps inside, Danny's nowhere to be found. Nick explains he went to bathe in the pond. Since the bathroom is occupied by the female officer, the chief heads outside to relieve himself. But the moment he steps out, Nick rushes over to stop him, claiming there's a venomous snake in that area and suggesting he go somewhere else. The chief doesn't think twice and walks off. Little does he know, Danny is tied up and hidden right below. Just then, the officers inside receive word that the victim's phone has been found. The chief barely has time to pull up his pants before he's racing back down the mountain. Now Nick takes his sweet time, grabs some tools, and goes to find Danny. You just had to go looking for trouble, didn't you? We've been brothers for years, and you had to go and stir things up. Well, look where that got you. But the moment Nick finishes talking, Danny springs up and shoves him to the ground. Then he bolts down the mountain. That night, police pull the victim's identity from her phone. The victim turns out to be Nick's wife. Combined with everything else, Nick is basically the prime suspect. But when Danny asks him who he killed, Nick insists he didn't kill anyone. Danny's thinking, who are you trying to fool? And whose hand was that?
പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ ആരും കൊണ്ടല്ലെന്ന് പിന്നെ കൈപ്പത്തി എങ്ങനെ കൊടുക്കും
As the truth finally comes to light, the full picture is far more complicated. It turns out Nick suffers from ED. From the day they got married until now, he and his wife never consummated their relationship. Despite extensive treatment, nothing ever worked. But that wasn't even the worst part. What truly destroyed him was how his wife's attitude toward him changed over time. Gradually, Nick realized she was probably having an affair. But he didn't confront her, after all, he felt it was his own failing. Then one night, he came home to find his wife had hanged herself. He was shattered. What pushed him even deeper into despair was the note she left behind. She confessed to the affair. And the reason she chose to end her life? She was pregnant. Reading those words felt like knives in Nick's chest. But then he did something deeply disturbing. He dragged his wife's body into a room and began dismembering her. Technically, she died by suicide. Nick committed no murder. So why would he do this? When he was done, Nick placed something in a yellow plastic bag and put it in the fridge. Even Danny is baffled when he learns the truth.
അവളെ എത്രമാത്രം എനിക്ക് ഇഷ്ടമുള്ള കാര്യം നിനക്കറിയാറുന്നില്ല. അവളെ കളിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പാവത്തിന് ഇങ്ങനെ പണി കൊടുത്തവരെ ഞാൻ പണി കൊടുത്തിട്ട് ഞാൻ അഞ്ചാണ് ജീവിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്.
എന്നാലും സാർ അവനെ എന്ത് ചെയ്തു?
കൊന്നുപോകില്ലേ? പിന്നെ തിരും അവനവന്റെ വീട്ടിലുണ്ടാക്കി ഞാൻ അവനെ കൊണ്ടു തിരിച്ചു.
Remember Danny's first day at the signal station? The food Nick had been cooking for him since then, that's what was in that yellow bag. Meanwhile, back at the station, investigators uncover new evidence. The victim had called Danny's phone multiple times before her death. Danny's phone location data lines up almost perfectly with where the body parts were found. And the chat logs on the victim's phone show she told Danny she was pregnant. Danny's response? Cold and hostile. With all these clues pointing in one direction, the police are now convinced Danny is the killer. The chief immediately leads a team to the signal station to make the arrest. Nick hasn't been sitting idle either. Originally, his plan was simply to frame Danny and send him to prison. But Danny finding that hand threw a wrench in everything. Now Nick has no choice but to go all the way. He ties Danny to the wire fence and jams the antenna onto it. All Danny can do now is wait in despair. A bolt of lightning tears across the night sky. The outcome speaks for itself. Nick then rushes out and flags down the chief's car, his face a mask of terror, convincing enough to fool everyone. By the next morning, the case is mostly wrapped up. The chief tells Nick to head home and get some rest. But as Nick turns to leave, the chief notices a tear in the back of his shirt. At first, he doesn't think much of it. But when he returns to examine the scene again, he spots a scrap of fabric from Nick's shirt snagged on the wire fence. That immediately sets off alarm bells. He slowly approaches Nick, but then he overhears two colleagues talking, and it changes his mind. In that moment, he feels a deep empathy for Nick. Even though he spotted the suspicious circumstances around Danny's death, he chooses not to expose Nick. Instead, he reports to his superiors that Danny died in an accident while repairing the antenna. As the chief releases that scrap of fabric into the wind and watches it drift away, the story comes to its end. Quite the twist at the end, wasn't it? Even though Thunderstorm Zone is a low-budget production, the director crafted it with real precision. First, there's the atmosphere. The main setting is a signal station perched on a high-altitude mountaintop, dangerous terrain, cramped spaces, brutal weather. Pair that with the cold, desaturated cinematography, and you get this intense feeling of suffocation and tension. Then there's the storytelling style. The first half moves at a deliberately slow pace, but it's packed with hidden clues. When the truth finally drops, it hits you like a freight train. Nick is drinking almost constantly, a sign he's carrying a heavy burden. His nausea at the sight of meat isn't just because he dismembered his wife. It's because he turned the baby inside her into food and served it to Danny. Early on, Nick warned Danny not to pry into other people's lives, or there would be consequences. At the time, Danny had no idea what he meant. Even the audience would just take it as friendly advice from a senior colleague. After all, based on everything we've seen, these two seem to get along great. But that's exactly what the director wants you to think. It's all carefully constructed so that when the truth is revealed, the contrast hits you like a sledgehammer. What makes this film's climax so powerful isn't some over-the-top plot twist or explosive set piece. It's the way it takes everything that seemed harmless and ordinary and transforms it into suffocating dread. The audience, just like Danny, has been kept in the dark the entire time only to realize at the very end that the trap was set long ago. That feeling of the abyss hiding in plain sight is what makes it truly terrifying. And the final scene, the chief letting Nick go, is the stroke of genius that ties it all together. From a narrative standpoint, it delivers the cathartic satisfaction of a perfectly executed revenge. From a real-world perspective, it offers a sharp commentary on male psychology in Indian society and systemic corruption, sparking deeper reflection and debate among viewers. Alright, that's the story for today. See you next time.